Okay, so I feel like I need to do a little follow-up on yesterday's post about the substitute teaching issue because that was really not representative of my entire experience. And not only that, but, I mean, bitch was a senior. I was 22, and she was such an idiot. She was probably 22 also, just still trying to get through high school. And not to be 5 years old, but if you put your hands on somebody, you should fully expect them to put their hands on you, especially if you live in the South, because we don't fucking play. You know, you want to go there? Let's go. However, for the most part, when I substitute taught, I mean, coming from someone who didn't have any maternal instincts, if you teach at the same school over and over like I did with this different middle school, you just fall in love with the children. You love them because you see them all the time. And I would always tell them, I'd say, I'm just as nice as you allow me to be, and I'm just as firm as you force me to be. And that's how we roll. When the bell rang, I would say, all right, whoever has candy in your pockets, take it out. And the kids would be looking at each other like, what's going on? And I'd say, and you know what? If you feel like having your shirt untucked, I don't really feel like having mine tucked in either, even though I'm under the same rules y'all are. Let's all untuck our shirts. If you want to eat candy, eat it. That just means your little teeth will be stuck together with taffy and you won't talk as much. And if they were good, I'd say your last 10 minutes, if y'all are good, you can do what you want. You can write a note. You can chat with your friends, you can play tic-tac-toe, you can do whatever you want. Because if you can concentrate on anything for 40 solid minutes, then, you know, have your 10. And I would tell them, I'd say, when you get into college, I mean, you could show up in a Snuggie with a Happy Meal and slap it down on the table. That's the reason children rebel. You give them stupid rules in addition to important rules, and then they don't pay attention to any of them. Why? Because you gave them too many rules. So sorry about the bra strap, but I got a skeeter bite on my arm. So I would, you know, I respected them. If I had a problem kid who would not be quiet, I would say, all right, out in the hall. And all the kids would go, ooh. Well, that kid was fully expecting to get screamed at. And instead of getting screamed at, I would treat him with the same level of respect that he was supposed to be treating me with. Mr. Jones, do you want to be an advocate or do you want to be a problem? Because going to school is your job the same way being a sub teacher is my job. And you're not doing your job, therefore you're not allowing me to do mine. So will you please just help me out? And the kid would think, you know what? She totally deserved to give me a lecture, and she didn't. She empowered me instead. So you take that kid who used to be a problem, you walk back into the classroom, and henceforth, that kid's the one who actually did turn into your advocate. He's the one going, hey, y'all be quiet. Miss Rice is cool, right? And it's because you took something, and I mean, a screaming lecture was not going to do anything for that kid except take away a little bit of dignity that he already had. And I didn't want to do that. And anytime I gave a kid a choice of, hey, you want to give me 20 instead of getting referred out, anytime, and I would get down on the floor with them, we'd do our 20 push-ups, and if they actually got through it, we'd both stand up, huffing and puffing, and I'd shake their hand, and I'd say, you know what? You really did that effortlessly. You could have a career in the military. They could pay for your school. If a teacher left suddenly and there wasn't a lesson plan, I wasn't going to hand out a little connect the dots thing. We still had work to do. There was still something I could teach these kids. So we would play games like employer versus employee, the pros and the cons. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. So here's the responsibility of being an employer. You have to do all these things. And you could skate through being an employee, but you're not going to make the same amount of money. Or we would play games like grants and loans. What's the difference between what? I would even take my own salary, my paltry salary, and I would say, okay, Miss Rice doesn't have a degree, so this is how much a sub-teacher makes. Well, this is how much you'd make if you had a degree and you were a teacher. And we would add up. I'd use my actual bills. I'd say, all right, well, this is my rent, this is my electricity, da-da-da-da. And I would show them how much a degree means. And I always wanted to, I don't know, I wanted to give them things that they could use. Like, this is why you need a checking account. This is how you write a check. This is how I would just come up with things I felt they needed to know and that otherwise they may not have been taught. because I wanted them to have a decent future. I told them, I said, don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't afford to go to college, because if you're good at a subject or sport, make that work for you. A lot of people have done it, and they've done it quite successfully. I remember in particular this one little boy, oh my gosh, poor little thing, had like 3 shirts and just filthy, and you could tell he was a child neglected. But I noticed he had straight 100s on his math scores. And so I asked his mama, I said, do you mind if I pick him up and take him for a little field trip? And so I took that kid to my brother-in-law, his doctor. And I sat him down, and my brother-in-law was nice enough to say, these are all the steps that I had to take to become a physician. And all you need is, you got a head start because you're brilliant in math. Or there was another little problem student. He was a tall, little, skinny thing, and he would argue with anything. He would argue with a stump. And I started calling him counselor. And I'd say, you'd make a great attorney. Same thing. Picked the kid up, took him to a friend of mine who's an attorney, and this is how you do it. Well, that kid, along with about 5 others, when Facebook came out, they were nice enough to find me. And they told me, Miss Rice, you were so cool. Thank you so much for being cool. And thank you so much for treating me with respect. And you know what? You are welcome. Because I had plenty of teachers in middle school who humiliated me or humiliated people that I was friends with, and I just felt like there had to be a better way. So my substitute teaching days were mostly just extraordinary. And, the bitch I clocked had it coming. So I just wanted to give you a whole story instead of a ripped out page of a very unusual chapter. But if you harness energy the right way, electricity can fry your ass if you don't respect it, or it can be used to warm you if you harness it the right way. Same thing happens with children. Empower them. And, they'll come find you all these years later, and they'll thank you for it. Okay, y'all take care.